You know, one thing that helps me make these YouTube videos, besides just doing a bunch of research on my own, is I also watch a lot of YouTube myself. I watch a lot of other channels, and one of my favorite channels to watch is Thoughtful Money with Adam Taggart. And one of his most recent interviews, he talked to Lacey Hunt, and there was a lot of valuable gold nuggets of wisdom in that video. And you know, one thing I heard in this interview that stuck with me that I wanted to talk about a little bit here is the thing that's really keeping everything going right now, more than people realize, are the high interest rates. And you might sit there and say, well, how is that possible, Michael? Like, the high interest rates are designed to slow the economy down, and they have in a sense, but they also haven't. And here's why. Because when we have high interest rates, most people are paying high interest rates. They're not receiving high interest on money saved or anything like that. And we know this for a fact because of the savings rate, and we've seen how many people have a high yield savings account right now is abysmal. It's like practically no one. And the thing is, guys, most people are paying interest. They're not earning interest right now. And so that alone is really helping this so-called booming economy. What that does is it really helps companies' bottom lines, and it really helps especially the credit card companies. All the lenders that are collecting all this interest from you are making a fortune right now. Meanwhile, it's making more and more people broker. And simultaneously, what it's doing is it's causing a situation where people have to dedicate a higher percentage of their income each month to just paying for the monthly essentials. Like, if you want to maintain your standard of living that you had pre-pandemic today, you can easily say that life is 30 to 50% more expensive depending on where you live and what you buy, how expensive your house is, things like that. And so most people have not received a 30 to 50% raise in the past 3 years. And so if we stay on this current trajectory, unfortunately, what's likely to keep happening is that people's standard of living is going to continue to go down. And the reason for that is because the wages are simply not keeping up with how much everything costs. Guys, just look at the bare essentials that we all need the most: housing, food, and energy. Those things have completely exploded in price over the past several years, to the point where some people can't even afford to pay for it anymore. And so what we're really doing in this current economy, and why it appears to be so good, why you see these GDP numbers as high as they are, everything like that, all the traditional indicators that make things look good right now, what we're really doing is we're robbing our future prosperity to pay for today. That's what the high interest rates are doing. That's what all of the debt and the borrowing is doing right now. And we also have a situation where people are holding on to record amounts of all kinds of debt: mortgage debt, personal loan debt, student loan debt, credit card debt. And so when you take out debt on anything, you are borrowing today, which you will have to repay tomorrow at a higher rate. No? Well, that's exactly what's fueling this entire economy right now. And clearly the people that are riding on these huge yachts and things like that are not feeling anywhere near the level of economic pain that people in the bottom tier of earners are. Maybe they're not feeling any pain at all. In fact, things are probably thriving for people like that, which is also playing into this notion that everything is good right now. And so this makes me think about something very interesting, is that why are so many people wanting to have this booming economy where the stock market continues to go up and home prices continue to go up and basically everything gets more expensive? Because it seems like most people want the economy to go in that direction. Well, what does that do for the average person? It just prices them out even further of being able to buy a home. It makes owning a car more expensive and buying a car more expensive. It makes it so that if you don't have any wealth in the stock market, your barrier to entry is higher now. So really, the average person doesn't benefit from all of this unless you own these asset classes. Because the fact of the matter is, guys, like, people that are already doing well in this economy are loving it because everything is continuing to stay elevated and the price of things continue to go up, which just makes the rich richer. But if you are not a part of the club, you're not getting richer at all. You're getting poorer right now. And I know this for a fact because there was a recent story about bankruptcies, okay? And bankruptcies for non-businesses, which means personal bankruptcies in 2023 grew by 16% just year over year, guys. So 16% more people going bankrupt last year. And the thing that's actually alarming about this is not that it went up by 16%, but the fact that bankruptcies were going down for a long time and now they're starting to spike back up again, which suggests that things are not going as well as we're being told once again. In fact, December of 2023 marked the fourth quarter in a row with increasing amounts of bankruptcy filings. So the trend of bankruptcies is on the rise right now, and that's just for personal, guys. For business, it's actually far worse. Business bankruptcies in 1 year went up 40% last year. And it all comes back to what we were saying just a few minutes ago. It's about the level of debt that people are carrying right now is unsustainable, and it's pushing more people into bankruptcy because they have no other way out. Now, one of the most typical reasons why people end up in bankruptcy is because of a divorce, and they talked to a guy here in this story. He's 54 years old, out of New York, that ended up filing for bankruptcy, and he said, you know, at first it feels like you're getting this miraculous escape. You know, you're escaping from your debt and finally you can breathe, right? He says you're not even allowed to work more than your 40-hour work week because any wages you earn above that will be garnished and going towards your bankruptcy. Also, this guy has to pay alimony in the divorce. On top of that, you have to pay about a third of your monthly income towards the trustee for the bankruptcy. They said everything left over goes towards food, gas, and bills. Ironically enough, this guy said he ended up filing for bankruptcy because of his ex-wife's high expectations, a luxurious lifestyle. So too bad this woman brought this guy into bankruptcy and now he's broke. He said what he ended up doing was he ended up borrowing money from high-interest loan servicers to support their lifestyle. And in the end, you end up with a large amount of debt that you cannot pay. His wife refused to work and add anything to the pot, but she still wanted to have the finest things in life. So basically, this guy's working to death to pay for this lady's fancy fueled lifestyle on his dime. So that's like the perfect example of who not to marry, guys. For all of you guys out there who are single, if you come across a woman like this that expects you to just bring everything to the table so that way she can just paint her nails and lay by the pool all day, run the other direction. Let her do that alone. Let her get a sugar daddy. Let her do whatever she wants, but whatever you do, don't marry her. Don't finance that. I don't care how hot she is or how good the sex is, you will regret it later and you will end up like this guy. You know, it was interesting that he said this too, because I love that somebody that recently experienced bankruptcy came out and said this in a news article. He goes, the stimulus packages were not a handout. They were a high interest loan that we are paying back by high interest rates, which is 100% true, guys. I thought the same exact thing when I saw the stimulus checks were gonna be announced. This is exactly what I thought. I was like, you know what? This might look good right now. This is gonna save people right now, but all this is gonna do is gonna lead to high inflation. But a lot of people didn't expect that it was also gonna lead to high interest rates. So we're getting hit from both sides of things because, like I said, most people pay interest, they don't earn interest. So not only are people paying a higher level of interest rate to finance today's debt and to keep this economy going, but people are also paying far more for things that they bought that used to cost far less just a couple of years ago, and we're all feeling that. Nobody can dispute that. And since this guy's in his mid-50s, you know, he saw a thing or two as he was growing up, and he thinks that the economy started to shift in the 80s, because in the 70s, his mom used to be a stay-at-home mom, and his dad used to be the main breadwinner for the entire family. But as the 80s rolled around, he noticed a trend that changed where his mom actually had to go out and get a job in order to just keep up with the bills, because we also had a lot of inflation back then. And basically, as the years went by, a dollar just didn't stretch as far as it used to. And fast forward to today, it definitely doesn't stretch as far as it used to. So this guy's 54 years old. Imagine how old his parents were when they were born. He said both of his parents worked until the day they died, even though they both had 401ks and they both receive Social Security. So this is the future that most people are looking at if they don't get their finances under control now. And one thing I can't understand is why so many people want to just look at the figures, right? They want to just look at, oh, the stock market's hitting all-time highs. Oh, real estate is still extremely expensive. Oh, GDP was climbing in the second half of 2023, as if that's the only thing that matters, guys. Well, it doesn't. What really matters is what's happening with the average person, and what you're seeing is more and more people beginning to slip, beginning to struggle. I mean, even this recent jobs report that came out, okay? Everybody's celebrating that this is the best jobs report we've had in a long time, and that is just one more indicator that the economy is doing well. But if that's the case, then why are so many people not feeling good about things right now? What it all comes back to? Inflation. Nobody cares that inflation has been going down. You know why? Because even people in our government don't understand that just because inflation is going down doesn't mean prices on things are going down. Guys, what it really means is that the price of everything is still going up at 3.5% a year, just at a slower pace. But it's just not at 9.5% every year. It's not at 6%, it's at 3.5%. So you should be thankful that the price is only going up by 3.5% instead of 9%. Really? But when people hear, especially that don't know, that are uneducated about this, that inflation is going down, what they hear in their mind, or what they want to think is happening, is that prices are going down, which is actually not true. Now, they're also claiming that the wage growth grew by 4.5% in 2023, which outpaced inflation, so everybody's supposed to be happy about that. But I'm guaranteeing you that not everybody got that 4.5% raise, and if they did, it was just enough to keep up with barely the cost of things going up. It's not like anybody's getting ahead on that 4.5% raise. That 4.5%, guys, that goes away when people go fill up the car with gas, or they go to the supermarket and see the cost of all the groceries they're buying, or when they pay their rent or pay their mortgage or see the increase in their property taxes or insurance. So all that melts away. So it doesn't really matter even if people did have wages grow by 4.5%. I mean, just look at insurance alone, guys. We saw that people's insurance rates for homeowners insurance and for car insurance went up about 40% in 2023, guys. Just that one thing alone went up 40%. So you think that 4.5% increase in pay is really enough to keep up with all of that? Of course not. And here's the sad reality that most people are going to have to understand, is that even if the Fed reaches their target of getting inflation down to 2% soon, all that means is that prices are going to continue going up 2% a year from here on out, which means that things will continue to get more expensive. None of that means that anything's getting cheaper. And that's what people don't understand about this situation. And the reality is, how can we have this soft landing? How can we avoid a recessionary environment when the cost of everything continues to get more and more expensive and people aren't able to keep up? So we're in this situation right now where all this so-called prosperity that we're experiencing is once again only benefiting the top percentage of people who own these assets. You know, people who have a lot of money invested in the stock market, people that own multiple properties, or even just one property. It's more than what most people own, right? If you have money saved in the bank earning interest right now, if you have all three of those things, of course you're feeling good about this economy. But what about somebody who doesn't have any of it? So when you hear these stories that, oh, the consumer confidence index ticked up, you know, the largest amount that it did in 2 years, and that all these indicators with the economy are booming, while those things are true, it does not paint the real picture of what's happening with the average everyday American. Because what the average everyday American is dealing with is record high credit card debt, not being able to purchase a house because they don't make enough money, having to lower their standard of living just to keep up with the cost of everyday life. A really sad part of all of this, guys, is that as much as Americans are struggling, is how much money our government, the federal government and local governments, are wasting on illegal immigrants right now, okay? In fact, New York City, they just geared up to launch a $53 million program where illegal immigrants will receive prepaid credit cards, okay? And what they want to do is they want to make everybody who's getting these sign an affidavit saying that, oh, we're only going to use it for food and baby supplies, and they're going to give them $1,000 a month for a family of 4, guys. Talk about upside down world, where people are getting stuff like this right now that don't even belong here. They're not even supposed to be here, and they're getting $1,000 a month from the city of New York. Meanwhile, you have guys that are in bankruptcy like this paying $1,000 a month towards the bankruptcy and things like that, rather than getting ahead in life. How is this even possible? That's what I keep asking myself over and over again. Like, why are they doing this? Really, what needs to happen right now is everybody in our government needs to be fired, guys, because they're not working for us anymore. Clearly, they care more about illegal immigrants coming into this country, and if they can feed their kids and put clothes on their backs, rather than citizens that work here and pay all the taxes and pay their salaries, by the way, they don't care about us anymore. So make sure when it's time to vote this November that you know who you're voting for and what they stand for, because you might be surprised that they might support something like this. And if you want proof that it's just people with money right now that are really doing the best and who are really feeling good about where things are at, take a look at this newest stat, okay? In the fourth quarter of 2023, 47% of luxury home purchases were all cash, guys. And luxury home purchases are considered anything over about $1.2 million depending on the area. So very expensive, and obviously a lot more than that in places like here in Miami. And because now $1 million bucks, just the average house here, just like places in LA and New York, San Francisco. But do you think people that can spend $3-4 million on a house and pay cash like it's nothing are worried about the rate of inflation right now and what's going to happen with unemployment? Of course not. So really what all this comes down to, if you ask me, is it comes down to most people's lack of financial awareness. They don't have any financial education, guys. And while I don't consider my channel a financial education channel by any means, I feel like there are nuggets of wisdom that can be learned from this. And listen, the goal shouldn't be for people like, oh, you need to be getting rich. No, that's not the reality. You don't need to be rich to live a good life and be able to afford things and have nice things. And unfortunately, the culture today and things you see on TV and social media can make people think that if you're not making, multiple 6 figures a year, then you're a loser, which is definitely not true. What really most people need to learn is they need to learn how to have their money make money. They need to learn how to make more while simultaneously saving more. And if they can just master those couple simple things, you'll be surprised at how far you can get ahead. People say I always talk about all this gloom and doom stuff and don't have any advice to give. Well, here you go, guys. This is my advice. My advice is to, clean up your financial act. If you're somebody that falls into these categories that we were talking about here, and you're behind, it's time to start catching up. It's time to dig out of the hole. For one, I actually like this higher interest rate environment. You know why? Because I have money saved. And for the first time in a long time, the money I have saved is earning a significant amount of interest, to the point where I actually don't even want to invest in real estate right now, guys, because the rate of return that I could get on a rental property right now with these prices and these rates make absolutely no sense. Whereas just having money saved in the bank is getting me a better return with 0 headaches. And I'm sure a lot of other investors are thinking the same right now. That's why you've seen investor activity slow down significantly in the past couple of years, because the juice is no longer worth the squeeze. And the one last thing I want to leave you with is, when I started in real estate, when I first started selling real estate, it was 2009, guys, beginning of 2009. So the entire housing market was in free fall back then. And I had to learn how to make money in a declining market, which is something a lot of agents in my office didn't know how to do, because all they ever knew were the good times, right? And so that's what people are going to have to learn how to do now that things have already peaked. We've already seen the best. We've already seen things get basically as good as it can get. And now the high interest rates are starting to take its toll on people who relied on having low interest rates for so long. So rather than try to game the system or always try to cheat or whatever, it's better to just deal with the cards that you're being dealt. If you're in a high interest rate environment like now, find out how can that benefit you and use it to your advantage. Same thing when interest rates are low. That's why you see when interest rates are really low, people are buying a bunch of real estate because it makes sense to do that when rates are 2.5% or 3%. So just use the current economy to your advantage and you'll find a way to get ahead. Hope you guys enjoyed all these boats out here. I know I sure did. It's a beautiful day in Miami. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. And if you don't want to wait for my next video to come out, check out this one on the screen right over here. And I'll see you in the next one.